Good afternoon, Deborah. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Lori. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been way too many months since we did
Yeah.
our last webinar. So here we are in 2025, and we've definitely, gone through a lot in the past few months. Um, in talking to some colleagues here at Continuing Life, we were talking about what would be good topics. And several of my colleagues here said, it'd be a good topic to just talk about uncertainty in the world. There's a lot going on, whether we're talking about financial, immigration, domestic and international tensions. We had an earthquake this week. There's been fires. So there's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
So, I think that gives people, tension, anxiety as they're, trying to separate. They come to work and they try to put all that out of their mind. But I thought that'd be a good topic for us to explore for, as usual, some tips that you may have for, remaining calm in all of this.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to start with the earthquake actually, because that just recently happened.
Yes.
There's just this whole continuum of reactions. You can have somebody that feels the earthquake and says, "Oh, must be an earthquake," to somebody else who now is having a panic attack, has to go to the hospital because of the
Mhm.
they have to something that is they don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
The unknown and uncertainty is very anxiety provoking
Mm.
for most of us. And then it's how we handle it and how we manage it that can make a difference. Um, so the fires, a huge disaster for so many people. And there are
Mhm.
people that can pick themselves up and move on, and there are people that are just stuck and devastated. Um,
Right.
so, how do we move on with uncertainty, with not knowing? And I think it's a good question. It's an important question, and it's different for everybody. And there isn't a right or wrong answer, but if it does get to a point when someone is paralyzed by it, then that's a little bit problematic because then you can't move on and do what you need to do, taking care of your family or your, being involved in your job or in relationship. Um,
Right.
so I think it is also about how do we manage anxiety because the
Right.
uncertainty provokes the anxiety, and
Absolutely.
what do we do about that? Um, So some of it is actual things that you can do. Like one thing is thinking about our five senses. What can you smell? What can you touch? What can you taste? What can you hear? What am I missing? See, five senses. So thinking about the five senses is kind of grounding. It's real, it's concrete versus the stuff that's in our head of, oh my God, is there going to be another earthquake? Am I going to, do I have to run outside? What do I need to do? Um, Having a plan is a good idea. So after the fires, there was a lot put out about, evacuation plans and
Hmm.
packing a container that holds things that you might need.
Yeah.
Not done it yet, but I think it's a good idea because planning and being in action is a really good way to manage anxiety.
Yeah, almost imagining that that gives you some semblance of control over
Exactly,
something that we have no control over.
exactly right, because we have no control over what's uncertain or what's unknown, except how we manage it, how we think about it too. So if you think about it like, oh, well, this is going to be interesting, or whatever it is, I'll manage it. That's one approach, an attitude. Or, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. That's another way of how one might be with it.
Yeah, and I know, obviously you're available to staff to reach out to talk. So, imagining that you're getting calls like this, um, Is that what you tend to work with people on, is coming up with their own personal plan? Obviously, every situation's different, but it's helping someone, kind of understand what's causing the angst, whatever that might be, and then helping them come up with a plan to address it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
Hoping, I guess, right?
really practical in my approach. Understanding can actually be very complicated because that can go back to childhood and how we were raised and what we learned. I don't get into that as much as what's happened, what's your reaction, what do we need to do about it, so if something happens again, you can manage it a little better and it's
Right.
not overwhelming and devastating. Or even if it is overwhelming, you know that it's not going to last forever, it's temporary. And then doing something that's concrete, like making lists or calling a friend, playing games on a phone, or something, some form of distraction and something concrete that gets you out of your head, spinning in your head, because
Hmm.
not always the truth, um, and doing something. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably staying off social media, which probably makes it right
Well,
back.
social media,
Worse.
is can be problematic, and
Hmm.
a lot of it is not real, and it can be very detrimental. So have to be really careful when if somebody chooses to go on there, to keep in mind that some of that stuff is made up, and it's not real. I've seen some. I don't go on social media too much, but I saw one thing about a huge snake that was totally artificially, represented. It was not something that was real.
Oh,
Um,
it was like an AI generated snake.
yeah, yeah, and that's happening more and more.
Now that would throw my husband into an anxiety attack. That's his fear.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to look up that just for the right moment.
I yeah, no, but just to be aware, if you do choose to um, look at social media, even the news, listening to the news, just because
Mhm.
it's on a well-known station doesn't necessarily mean that it's people's opinions, their interpretation of something that's happened.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any, I kind of listed, a whole lot of stuff in the beginning that people are worried about, and, every single person might be worried about, some or all of those. Would you use that same technique if, whether they're, worried about, their 401k or other financial items, or, the earthquake? Is it the same kind of mentality of, addressing it, or do you recommend different approaches?
Well, it depends, and everybody's different. But it comes down to, I think, uh, not getting carried away with um, imagining things could be worse. So let's take, for example, the financial situation that has been quite in flux lately.
Hmm.
And so that's where in fact, I just worked with somebody the other day where he was very concerned about his finances. And my suggestion is to talk with an advisor, his financial advisor, and really get concrete. In fact, write things out, and so that you can see in black and white, and that's concrete. This is what I have. This is what my liabilities are, what my assets are, and I don't need to take out money now, or whatever your circumstances are,
Hmm.
so that you're not reeling in your head with things that could just blow up, but you're getting very specific and real. You want real information.
Right.
This is where information and education is powerful.
Yeah. So the list making actually is kind of the same, right? It's a different kind of list, but getting
Yeah,
it down on paper is probably, a good idea.
yeah, absolutely. I'm a big list maker. I believe in making lists and writing things out. So even when somebody has a lot of worries about things, I might suggest, why don't you write them all out and look at them? And then next to each one, you can determine, is this something I can do something about? And if it's yes, then you might want to brainstorm what you can do. And if it's no, like, I don't know, I'm going to say something happening somewhere else that you have like absolutely no ability to do something about, then you're going
Mhm.
to have to, and I hate to say this, but let it go. Now, what does that mean? It means I can't do anything about it. So I'm going to move on to the next thing that I could do something about. And then I can feel at least I've accomplished something.
Right. That reminds me of that. There, people are talking about that. The Mel Robbins "let them" theory, right? So that's kind of the same thing that you're talking about. Like, let it go, let them and keep moving on. That you
Yeah,
can only control what you can control.
yeah, yeah. And it is hard to let things go. So when it comes back up again, because it will, then you remind yourself, okay, I decided that I can't do anything about this. I'm going to let it go. And so it's a process. It's an ongoing process. Um, just because you say you're going to let it go doesn't mean that it's going away.
Yeah, I guess it's a constant work in progress.
Yeah, until something else comes up, and then you're dealing with that.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, I certainly want to remind everybody, in struggling to let it go, you're a resource for everybody. And so certainly they're welcome to reach out to you. All of the conversations you have are confidential. No reporting comes back to their community, so they can certainly do that. Um, and we also have EAP as a resource as well. So they have, options in terms of that. So we'll, we always do, share your contact information as well as the AP on the screen so they can refer back to that.
yeah.
But as always, and we'll get better about doing these quarterly. So I guess we'll meet sooner in this quarter than we have up to now.
I always appreciate hearing from the staff and employees out there what their concerns are, what they want us to address, so that it's very relevant to them.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll put a section on All Stars where they can share comments so they
Yeah,
can give us some suggestions. That'd be fabulous.
yeah.
So
And sometimes just making the call can help people feel better because then they're in action doing something about it.
it's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, thank you as always.
My pleasure. All
Okay.
right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.